Cool. All right, Marie, can you start us off?
Uh, Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, everybody, for being on this webinar today. We are really excited to have SOLIDWORKS educators here with us. I am Marie Blanchard. I am a education and engineering advocate for SOLIDWORKS, and I would like to introduce you to our guest speakers today. Jason Poole is a celebrity in designer. You may have seen Jason on OCC choppers. For years, he was a designer showing us beautiful artwork turned into the most creative motorcycles. As a father of four, he continues to share that passion for design with his children, and we're really excited to have him with us today. We also have Dan Wagner, who manages our SOLIDWORKS user group network community and all that has to do with SOLIDWORKS users around the world to be part of our community that is so important. Ryan, who started us off, is our industry process consultant in education, and he helps out educators around the world get started with SOLIDWORKS. So let's take it away.
Thanks, Marie. So we're going to start. This hopefully is going to be a whole full Q&A between myself, Jason, Dan, and even Marie, kind of going through a bunch of common questions and things to hopefully give everybody some advice. We're shooting for 45 minutes with 15 minutes of questions, but feel free at any point to ask questions in the questions area. We will be monitoring that area as well. So to start us off, a question for Jason and Dan. How does SOLIDWORKS impact your career? Kind of run us through that a little bit.
Sure. Dan, you want to both go at the exact same time or you want to go
Let's
first?
try and talk at the exact same time. Jason, I'll actually start by saying, Marie, that was an awesome intro, and it's an honor to be on like a panel with Jason. I mean, let's start there because our paths were quite different, Jason. I was not any form of celebrity, and somehow you and I landed at the same company, working with the same software, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, Jason, I'll go to you first. How did SOLIDWORKS impact
Okay.
your career? Because that's going to be more interesting probably than my answer.
Well, I don't know if interesting is the word I would choose. But you know what? I was making video games. I was 3D modeling. I was an animator in the Chicagoland area. And I kind of got bored with that. I wanted to make things that were real life, something that didn't have a shelf life. Like the games would be released and then a new one 6 months later. And it was just, I really wanted to build something. And where I ended up working, taking a job was with Orange County Choppers. And at the time, we were kind of just building these motorcycles, these large V twin choppers. And it was a lot of parts that were getting ordered and then bolted on the bike through catalogs, an extensive catalog collection that Paul, the owner, had. And we'd flip through and just kind of put the parts on. And he had the vision that, this guy models things in 3D space. He could be creative and we could make our own custom parts right here uh, under the same roof. So I knew I needed to get away from polygonal modeling and video games. And I needed a tool that could bring my ideas into the real world, something that had measurements to it, real life measurements, so I could made up parts and attach them to the custom motorcycle that we were building. So I needed something that would take me to the next level. And a good friend at one of the video games companies I worked for said, "You really need to check out SolidWorks," and that changed everything dramatically, not just for me personally, but for the company that I worked at,
Sure.
to give us a new direction and a new focus on what is possible with our creativity and blending that with manufacturing items into the real world. So
Yeah, so you got SolidWorks out of like necessity. You needed it to advance to the next level, and And
Right.
again, very, very different from me. Like for my career, I was in college. I was in mechanical engineering school. I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, and an alumni came in and spoke to us about what she did. And she happened to own the local SolidWorks reseller. And she founded it with her husband, who was also a Temple alum. And that was my first exposure to SolidWorks, and even deeper than that, that there was like a community and a reseller industry behind SolidWorks, and that there was local representation to me near Philadelphia. I was like, wow, that like blew my mind, and it was crazy. Fast forward, I ended up getting a job with them right out of Temple, and based my entire career around SolidWorks, right? I certainly, to answer your question, Ryan, how did SolidWorks impact my career? SolidWorks like created my career very much from the ground up.
It's crazy. And actually, I don't know how we've never talked about this. My brother went to Temple as well, so we're gonna have a
Oh,
conversation after
wow.
this. So
Nice.
awesome. Well, thank you guys. Marie, what are your thoughts on that from the educator standpoint? Oh, Maria, sorry, you're muted.
I was just talking to Jason before we got on. I first saw Jason on stage at SolidWorks World over 22 years ago. I was an educator. I was teaching SolidWorks at the time, and I was a user group leader, which is what Dan manages now, and got an opportunity to go to SolidWorks World for free. And I'm sitting in the audience, and the lights go down, and all of a sudden I hear the engines roar backstage, and Paulie, Jason's boss, comes on, and I was just floored because here was this beautifully designed custom motorcycle that Jason was a part of, and it was real. It was right there from the initial conceptual drawings to the physical bike.
That's the one
Changed
that's still
my
at the
life,
office. That's the
Yeah.
one that's
really.
still at the office, right?
Yeah, it's still in the
Oh yeah,
office
yeah, yeah.
today.
I know that. I've seen that one.
And between the user group, the SolidWorks world, teaching SolidWorks, seeing my students get jobs, that user group at the time, we had 4 different resellers supporting the area that we live in, New England in the United States. And I got to know all of them, and they all had new customers. They all needed my graduates that had good SolidWorks skills. And, you know, Ryan, SolidWorks changed my life too.
Same here. And actually, speaking of jobs, actually brings us to our next question. So it's a question for everybody here. Why should I learn SolidWorks instead of another CAD tool? From your industry perspective, why does this matter?
Yeah,
And let's
maybe.
say, Dan, do you want to go first?
I was going to say, maybe I'll start with this one, Ryan, and it's such a great question. My industry experience, I've been here at SolidWorks for about 5 years. And before this, I worked at the reseller I mentioned for about 12 or 13 years, teaching SolidWorks and doing SolidWorks tech support mostly. And the volume of companies, the volume of people that would call into tech support on a weekly basis, to me was always an example of like, wow, how big the customer base is, how many people out there are using SolidWorks at their companies. We have lots of companies that have hundreds of SolidWorks users at them. And then we have an enormous part of our base that's just 1 to 2 or 3 SolidWorks users, and then everywhere in between, right? So if I'm a young engineer or a young designer, I'm thinking about if I'm trying to gain skills in the most common software, right? That's going to help me have the most meaningful conversations when I go for a job interview. That's going to be SolidWorks. There are other CAD tools out there, right? There's definitely other solutions out there, and not even throwing shade on any other solution, right? It's more so when you sit down with an employer, you go for a job interview, you're looking through job postings, those sorts of things. You're going to come across SolidWorks more than anything else.
Yeah, I always tell people it's like going pro. You know, when you're, there's other tools you can use, you can
That's
get
good.
screen time and you can build things, but like when people start using SolidWorks, they can see the potential. For me, it's I'm constantly learning my whole career. It's like I learn a new feature, I learn a new tool inside SolidWorks, and it allows me to grow as a designer. I mean, the first time I used weldments was last year, and it was an amazing tool that I didn't even know existed. So there's just all this knowledge and power packed into one professional tool that it's it's the professional standard. You know, it's something I
Yep.
could always grow into and continue to learn with.
That's actually a really good point. So a lot of people don't realize that in the education version, we put everything in. So we put like premium simulation, flow analysis, plastics injection molding, electronic HVAC, cooling. We put in everything. It's almost like $100,000 worth of commercial software if you removed a
Sure.
watermark. It's crazy. So people forget that, and that's a really good point, Jason. Like there's just so much more in there. Um, Even to the point where we've actually created some extra programs specifically for people to make sure they get access to it. So speaking about jobs, if you are in a school right now and you're looking to get an internship working with a company, we will actually sponsor that internship basically with licenses so that the company doesn't have to pay for licenses. And it's a way to basically kind of give back to industry to kind of help them out because you might have an intern for 3 months, 6 months, or Marie, like when I interned for like a whole year.
Yes. You
But
were a
like,
good intern, Ryan.
well, thank you, thank you. But you might have interned for a while, and this is a way for us to make it so that the company doesn't have to pay for it, but also they have a non-watermarked version, so that they can actually, this company can
It's
have the
awesome.
intellectual property and work on it. So there's some cool stuff we have going. Um,
And Ryan, this program is for, like you said, the customer that has 1 to 2 licenses of SolidWorks commercially, or they could have 100 licenses of SolidWorks commercially. It is global, and we have this program just really making a difference in students' lives.
yeah, and it wants it, and it like it helps. It helps. I mean, we've even said to some people in school, especially educators, like, look, if you're working with a company and you're doing this with an internship, there's also a chance they might also help you with your licenses at your school because the price point and other things like that, it's very comparable and they're saving so much money by getting that license for free. So it can be very helpful. Let's go on to question 3. How did learning SOLIDWORKS prepare you differently for industry? So Dan, let's start with you on this one. And then Jason, we're going to hold off for the next question for you on the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, I learned like, my first exposure to SolidWorks again was in college, and I joined the Formula SAE team at Temple. And I mean, even SolidWorks aside, I would so strongly recommend every engineering student look for some professional organization like that to join. And of course, we were using SolidWorks to design the car and design the design components. So having that experience in SolidWorks, not even just by yourself, working on a team, like you're not only making parts just for you, you're making parts that have to work together with the rest of your team and the entire assembly. You're going to be light years ahead of someone who didn't do that. So if you take the time to learn it in college, especially collaborate with other people and have to share your like you the transparency becomes a real big thing, right? Being accountable for your model becomes a real big thing as soon as you send it to someone else and they have to work with it. You can model whatever you want on your own machine, but as soon as you have to share it with someone else, it's like, all right, this thing has to be good. And you learn to do things in the right way. You learn to collaborate with people, and if you do that early, you're just going to be so far ahead of other people trying to get internships and trying to get jobs.
And this is kind of setting this up for after because Jason, next question is going to be for you. But things like design intent are important.
Right.
And when you learn those, it makes a big difference. And Marie, you being a former teacher, I'm sure you got a bunch of advice with this too.
I do, and I'll have to first reiterate what Dan said. Being part of a team, um, for me as a mechanical engineer, also those team moments, they're usually late. You- there's camaraderie, there's design where you realize, okay, I made a mistake. I got to go back and fix it. I don't think there's anybody out there that can beat SolidWorks weldments when it comes to frame and frame
Sure.
construction and easy to connect with stress analysis. We have thousands of teams that we sponsor with SolidWorks, and they come to us because, look, at students talk, they know, they talk to other teams. They come to us to get this software that becomes their passion. And that is what's important.
It's super important. I have to a team just to talk about student teams a little more because I'm a big fan, specifically about the Baja events because those are awesome. But
Mhm.
they're, I mean, you're on a small company. You're running a small company. You're making a product. You're redesigning. You're doing iterations. You're doing all these things, and it's awesome. So if you're not on a team, I would join one. Now let's jump into the other side of it. Jason, what advice would you give students learning SOLIDWORKS outside of the classroom?
Sure. You know what? I get asked, what I get asked that quite a bit. And for me, it's like there's so much different advice you could give someone, but ultimately it's chase what inspires you, what gets you out of bed in the morning, what gives you that motivation. Be part of that. If you're not getting that, doing something, you need to change gears and find a new path. But I think nowadays it's the the knowledge is out there, thanks to the internet. When I went through this training, I had to turn every rock and shake every professor and teacher and, hey, how do you do this? How do you do, and really network with my peers to learn 3D modeling. And now with all the information, it's like they have no excuse. The number one thing they need to do is chase what inspires them and learn something new every single day, no matter what it is. If you're watching others that are in the industry you want to be in, watch what they're doing. There's so much content out there, and learn something, one thing new every day. And that's setting yourself up for success, no doubt.
Love that. And I know, as you mentioned, like resources, and we'll go through that in a few minutes, but there's more and more and more resources coming out. And I always laugh about when it comes to like YouTube. Like if you were designing something like the dinosaur that you worked on, Jason, I'm
Yeah.
sure if you went on YouTube, someone probably tried to make a dinosaur at some point, and they
Oh,
probably
for
made a
sure.
YouTube video about it in SOLIDWORKS. Like there is so many users out there creating content of their own, how they designed it, what they did, and stuff like that. And it's awesome.
And Ryan, I have to point out, we just finished the world finals of our own internal competition, Accruti. So Accruti is a design competition with purpose that is held around the globe with regional competitions in Asia, the Americas, different parts, Africa. And the finalists come together. These are students. They come up with a creative, passionate, and sustainable idea to help their community. The results are then tallied amongst some amazing judges. A lot of them are engineering vice presidents at key companies of Dassault Systems and SolidWorks. So if your students are not in the team competitive mode of cars and Baja and robots and rockets, we have this other competition that it is ours, and they get to learn and express their passion with our tools, helping out our community. And it really is inspirational and innovative.
It's really cool to see, and thank you for putting that in the chat as well. It's really cool to see like teams come together and basically pitch, their idea with the CAD models, with everything put together. And you're almost doing like an elevator pitch. You're trying to sell people on your design and why it's important and why it's going to help sustainably and everything else. And it's a cool competition to jump in. And honestly, you could do it even if you're on a Baja team. You
Yeah.
could do this as well. There's nothing stopping anybody from doing multiple at the same time. So
Good
thank you,
point.
Marie. Yeah. So let's jump into question 5.
Oh, my
Um,
favorite topic.
mine too, Marie. I love certifications. Um, I know you and I could, we'll let them talk first, but then we can jump in. But how
Okay.
important are certifications like CSWA and CSWP when it comes to industry?
Yeah, I'll speak on this one, Ryan, if you don't mind for a moment, only because in my role now I manage the user group network, and I get to work with SolidWorks user group leaders all over the globe, like everywhere. And one of the things the leaders are pretty passionate about is helping their members get certified. So if we have a new leader anywhere, right? Just name your location. That leader is kind of like locally supporting their SolidWorks community. They are like the boots on the ground of helping local SolidWorks users get better, talk to each other, learn new tips, all that stuff, right? And these are volunteers, by the way, which is amazing. These are not paid employees from SolidWorks. These are our users, our volunteers. And when I watch the progression of those groups, if it's a younger group, we focus on, all right, let's see how many of your members can get CSWA, Certified SolidWorks Associate. Great. Now you feel pretty comfortable. Let's look at some practice examples from the CSWP and see if we can get you up to that CSWP level. And when I watch that progression and how much more confident a SolidWorks user gets to be by the time they're at that CSWP, it's really amazing. It's really astounding. And I would also see the same thing in tech support when I did that. And I always thought that was so interesting too, that when someone would call into tech support and immediately you're going to share screens, see their model, see what's going on, right? And it was very obvious. Jason, I'm not picking on you here. This is just me saying something. It was very obvious if someone was maybe a not certified user who never went through training versus someone who went through a SOLIDWORKS Essentials class, maybe got CSWA or CSWP, and then built their SOLIDWORKS model with fully defined sketches, you know, correctly organized parts in folders and beautiful assemblies, right? And Jason has taught me that you can be creative in different ways. You can use the software in different ways and still make amazing things. But I think for especially a student, a newer user, following the path of getting the certifications and then being able to sit down with a potential employer and show that, like, hey, I went through CSWA, I went through CSWP, and I'm working on my CSWE in these, different areas. It would be really helpful for students to do that.
Yeah, I think it shows a commitment to wanting to learn and wanting to understand the software better. And it's something I wish I would have done early in my career. I think it definitely helps keep everyone organized and define sketches properly. And it's it's just, if I could turn back time, that's the route I would take for sure.
I'll take it from the educator's perspective. When I was teaching, I had 3 sections, and creating exams with different problems, um, because, students talk and you want it to be fair, was so much work. Um, more time than I ever imagined. That was new to me because I came from industry, right? I didn't have to make up exams. And I went to think back, did I remember any of the exams I took in college, right? I remember sweating during my last physics exam because it was wicked hard. But I really didn't remember any of the problems. The certification method of starting out with the associate degree, and that is also an industry available degree, because years ago we were asked, we want you to make it easier. And we fought back some of the educators who asked that question to say, this is what industry is demanding. You have to know how to read a drawing. You have to know how to make changes to the drawing, to the part, and not have that part mess up your assembly. Because all of those things take time. And accuracy is extremely important in the design so that when you get to the machine shop, you're not scrapping the part and costing us, the company, lots of money. The CSWA is Fundamental Competencies in Engineering Graphics. And that is the foundation for all students. We grade it. We give you where the students do right, do well in the sections where they don't do well, and they have immediate feedback. It also stays with them the rest of their lives and is searchable on LinkedIn through our portal, and also makes a connection to their own personal LinkedIn. And then from there, they can build up. Right now, it's 15 exams. My guess is in a few years, we'll have 20 exams. This is a path that saves you time and gives your students an exam that they will keep with the rest of their lives.
It's true. And one of the things that's huge about those exams too, like you said, Marie, they last forever. And even if you have let's say I took mine back in 2007 or 2008, I could retake it and all of a sudden now it says 2026. So you're able to kind of retake them. But the big thing too is, when you look for an employer, if Dan and I both went to Temple University and we had the same GPA and he was certified in the associate and professional, I only had the associate, it will make the difference. If
Sure.
we're very similar, it's going to give you the edge. And the big thing is if you're in a school already that has SOLIDWORKS, your school has the certifications. So what we do is we bundle our certifications with our software. Most other software companies sell certification separate. We include it with subscription. So if you're a student at a school, let's say Temple, we'll just keep using Temple University as an example, they're using
Shout out to Temple.
SOLIDWORKS. They have access to equal amount of certification for 15 plus exams, associate, professional, all the professional advanced exams, you name it. And we don't really advertise this too much, but if you were, because a question popped up in the chat, if you were to get your associate, your professional, and 4 of the 5 professional advanced exams, you do qualify for the expert level. If you do reach out to us, showing your qualifications, giving us a reason why you want to do it, there's a chance we'll probably give you that as well. But we don't give it by default. But if you put the work in, we're willing to help out. So please make sure you reach out to your school, you reach out to them and find out, like, hey, I'm using SOLIDWORKS. What about certifications? The teachers can sign up as providers and we can make sure that you get certifications. There are some webinars we do certifications in. This is not one of them today, but other ones in the future, we do certifications as well. So keep an eye. Now, speaking of certifications, Dan, I think this question's for you to give me.
What an honor, Ryan. I would love to read you a question. So yeah, Ryan, what kind of resources do educators and students have available to prepare for SOLIDWORKS certification? And it's funny also to see the Q&A, a lot of questions about certification. So this is definitely something people are interested in.
It's huge. It's huge. And there's also been some questions on there about, what learning path is good and what should I do? So, and I think we'll be putting it in the chat as well, but solidworks.com /curriculum. So we have put together a ton of content from basically full step-by-step 40 practice problems, 4 per level for the associate level exam, and then 8 levels for the professional level exam, to 365 practice problems that are broken between associate and professional, easy, medium, hard, all different levels, different times it takes to do them. And we're also adding in more stuff, especially if you're a teacher, intro to CAD courses where it combines those 2 things together and gives you a course, as well as even small design projects that are meant for kind of like the 3D printing area. Jason, I know you love 3D printing. These are those small little projects, make a catapult, make a tension table. I know those are really cool as well. Even different things like little puzzles, you name it. So these are all on solidworks.com /curriculum. And then outside of that, there's also more content on my.solidworks.com. So my SolidWorks, if there's something outside of this, it'll be there. Simulation, flow analysis, you name it, is all in there as well. If you are a student and you get the 9020 serial number, which is the home use serial number from your school, you can actually use that serial number to register as a student on My SolidWorks and get access to pretty much everything. Everything but e-courses, but pretty much everything. So we give students tons of content. The content I would suggest, I think I can draw on the screen. We're going to draw on the screen. Let's do it live. One of the contents I would suggest is going to be popping up right here. It actually says step-by-step learning resources. And if I were to scroll down on the page, if you click on this at the top, there's two, one for XDesign and one for SolidWorks 3D CAD, which is the normal SolidWorks. I would highly suggest that course. We're actually adding a second one in there for CSWP as well. And both those courses are designed to basically over-prepare you for the exam. So we're trying to make sure not only are you prepared, but that you're over-prepared. And Marie, I'm sure is you, yep.
Yeah, and Ryan, I have to also include, you're going to see content on there. In my opinion, I think every designer needs to know. There is also fundamentals of SolidWorks electrical and fundamentals of SolidWorks simulation, where it's not just about using the software. You really learn the vocabulary and apply what you have learned, whether it's an electronics course, a physics course. When you are talking product design today, you're not just making a model. You got to know a lot more. You got to know something about additive or subtractive manufacturing. You have to know something about electronics, something about stress analysis. It's so important to get that part right the first time. And we have the tools to help with that.
It makes a difference. And all this learning content, like you said, it's structured around it is structured around the classroom use, but it's also structured. So I have a rule, and Maria, I know you're a former teacher, and I'm sure Jason and Jason Dan, this might count for you. I don't like telling teachers what to do. Teachers also don't like being told what to do. I like giving them the resources they need so that they can pick and choose. It's like if Maria, I gave you an Excel document that I've been working on for 5 years and it's now yours. You're going to modify it so that you understand it and you work with it. Especially as engineers, we like to reverse engineer. So if I give you all the resources you need, then as a tenured teacher like yourself that knows SolidWorks, you might just be like, hey, I want a few more practice problems. I've been using the same ones forever. Let me go find some more. And this is a little bit foreshadowing, but there's something I'll show later, which is really cool for that purpose. All right, let's jump to the next one. Question 7. This one's going to be a little more specific for you, Dan. How does community involvement help students? And I'm going to start us off real quick because I want to point out that there is so many different things when it comes to community, even with what you're going to talk about, from Skills Force to accelerators and incubators, sponsored teams, Swugin, and even the championship program. We have a ton of things going on that kind of bridge the gap between schools and industry. And so, but I know you know way more about this than I do, so let's jump in.
Well, yeah, I actually think we're all part of the community team here technically, because I think as a SolidWorks user, we support all these different levels of community, whether you're a student or even, as you mentioned before, Skills Force, right? If you're an intern, if you're a SolidWorks user at a company, then the SolidWorks user group network is definitely something you should be thinking about, right? If you're using SolidWorks in industry, you're wanting to network with other industry people. Like if you work at a sheet metal company, right? It's very easy to get focused on that and kind of lose track of how all the other amazing things you can design with the software. Well, you get a chance to go to a user group meeting, you talk to people in different industries, talk to people who use the software differently. And this is supported by and coming from us, right? Coming from us here at SolidWorks. We mentioned before that we have these amazing volunteers, these group leaders who are basically local boots on the ground who can operate these groups. They own the groups, right? They're the amazing volunteers that lead these and do all of the really hard work. We get to support it on the back end with resources and presentations and content. Ryan, last year we launched a new site for the user group network. It's swugin.org is the acronym there. And in just 1 year, over 16,000 people have joined that site, hundreds of meetings. We have more than 200 active groups around the world. And this, again, is entirely free. So whether you're using SOLIDWORKS at a company, or even if you're a student trying to network with industry professionals, trying to grow your network, show up to your local user group meeting. It might be a little intimidating because it might be a room full of industry professionals, right? That's fine. Step out of your comfort zone a little bit, network, shake hands, go meet some people and say, yeah, I'm a student. I'm looking to find out what companies in my area use SolidWorks. There is probably a user group near you. And if there's not, then we'd also love to talk to you about starting one as well. It's an enormous resource. That is my full-time job here at SolidWorks, managing this resource, and it's really a pleasure.
And they're really awesome. I was at UMass Amherst the other day for one of the Swuggen meetings. Went
Yep.
through some tips and tricks on practice problems with Ed Gibo. He went through and did a whole bunch of other stuff with other tips and tricks. API. I know AI has been mentioned. AI is also really good for creating SOLIDWORKS APIs. Just to put that out there.
Yep.
There's some pretty amazing stuff. And every time I go to one, like we were talking about before, learn something new every time. I'm like, I didn't know you could do that in SOLIDWORKS, and
Yeah.
it's always cool.
And you get exposed to this huge network, right? We have millions of SolidWorks users all over the world. It could be hard to, how do I connect with those people? Well, the user group network is one of those areas. And Ryan, you're showing the QR code here for the homepage, which is perfect. And I just dropped a link into the chat about as an example, one of our big upcoming events that we have, celebrating actually our oldest group's 30th anniversary in Seattle. The benefit of that event, like many events in Swuggen, is it's virtual. So I'll be there in person. We'll hopefully have about 100 people there in person, but we're also live streaming it to a Zoom. Scan this link, join the site for free, sign up for these meetings, either in person near you or virtually around the world.
Yeah, and I think it's important to add, like, you know what, surround yourself with successful people that,
Yeah.
that are doing these things. And if they're willing to share, which is what it's all about, they're able to
Yeah.
share that knowledge, and you're able to gain knowledge. I mean, that's how we improve every day, you know? It's
Yeah.
that's the
I,
path. I love that. I
You're
love it.
so right, Jason. I see that common theme through all group leaders. It's very much like a service role. They're so excited to give back to the community because they know whatever they put into the community, they're going to get back tenfold. I love that idea, surrounding yourself with successful people. And Ryan, great transition here. Another group of really successful people is the SolidWorks Champions. This is managed by my good friend Matt Clegg here at SolidWorks. And the easiest way to describe the difference, right? If you're a SolidWorks user group leader, you're locally making a big impact to your local network, your local group of SolidWorks users. You're really doing a huge service. The SolidWorks Champions program, you're making a much more broad impact to the entire SolidWorks community by advocating online, by taking certifications, by going to 3D Experience World, by being part of this, which really is a virtual group of champions all over the world. And by the way, there's a lot of group leaders who are also champions. Not everybody, but there is quite a bit of overlap there too.
Yeah, the Champions program, once again, is great. I know one of the requirements, I believe, is CSWP. So
Yes.
talking about certifications, it's definitely something good to focus on and get certified. And then you can be part of the Champions program, which, for those who don't know, you get access to a lot of stuff when you do that. You get access to some R&D stuff. You can talk with some of our executives. It's pretty cool. I know Matt's done a
Yeah.
lot of work with that program.
Oh, it's amazing. It's an elite crew. It's hand selected people who are in this program from all over the planet, all different industries, different roles, using the software in different ways. But it is an elite crew of people for sure.
That's
And
awesome.
Dan, I was fortunate to be on a user group, virtual user group with one of our leaders, Amy Hamilton. Amy Hamilton is a middle
Yeah.
school teacher in Florida, and she's also a champion. She had connected champion and just a 3D printing manufacturing genius Kirby Dowling in
Kirby Downey.
London. She was with a group of teachers that had invited her for her support in Hawaii, even though her user group was in Florida and I
Right.
was in Boston. And on the call was another user group leader that has since retired from Halliburton. Um, and you have this community of SolidWorks industry educators, people connecting to
Yeah.
help other educators. And that is what's just so amazing. It's
Right.
just fantastic about our community.
Especially with technology now. I know, Dan, you guys have been updating stuff and new tech and new things for the website, and I've heard that's been really helpful. So
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it
As as
Is it Bevy? Was it?
Exactly. Yeah. The vendor on the back end is called Bevy, but the site is swuggen.org. But Bevy is industry standard community software for Google, for Salesforce, for HubSpot. E- Everybody uses them, and I'm proud to say we're on that list now as well. And as Marie pointed out, even attending a meeting virtually is in the site. We do have options for Zoom, but you never leave the site. You're in the meetings virtually, you're in your groups, you have a holistic view as to what's going on.
That's awesome. And just one thing too, once again, we mentioned it a few times, so I want to put it up there. I think Valerie put the links in the slide as well. But it's we sponsor teams all around the world for all different competitions, whether it's a Crudy, Baja, Formula, you name it. Even for robotics, even if you were on a Skills USA competition or a CTE program where you're competing, we will sponsor you. This software is not meant for school computers, but it's meant for your personal computers. But we have options, whether it's Xdesign with a cloud software, SOLIDWORKS Desktop, SOLIDWORKS Plus cloud services, or even SOLIDWORKS Plus our 3D Experience Engineer package, which includes Simulia, Delmia, Anovia, pretty much all of our high-end software. So we pretty much give you whatever you need. And also sponsored teams do get certification, which is awesome. I know we're gonna have to leave some time for questions here. We're doing great so far. Next question. This one's important because I feel like unfortunately we don't do enough of this in school. What teamwork skills
Great.
should students learn? And
Yeah,
yep,
I totally agree, Ryan. This is not something, unless you're part of a professional or an organization, a team organization, as we mentioned before. If you're using SolidWorks by yourself on a computer, you're usually not exposed to the woes of file management, right? If anybody here has used SolidWorks or really any CAD software, you end up with a lot of files, right? If you make an assembly, you have a file for every single part in the assembly, but then also a file for the assembly itself. And then what if you have 2D drawings of all those parts, right? Suddenly you have a lot of data to manage. If you can gain some experience in managing that data in, Ryan, as you're showing here, in a local PDM system, a more traditional like server-based PDM system, or as the industry seems to be heading, and certainly as we are as a company towards a cloud-based data management system, any experience there where you can talk the talk a little bit in an interview, like, hey, how have you worked with a team before? How have you managed files together as a team before? You haven't lived until you've overwritten someone's file on a server by accident, right? That's always the emergency call into tech support. Like, hey, I just overwrote my boss's file with some. You've got to help me get that file back. And if you can speak to any of that, man, that's great skills to have.
well, I feel like Jason, you've done tons of projects. I mean, I've seen
Yeah,
obviously the dinosaur, the
yeah.
motorcycle. You sent me a few of the other things, and I'm sure there's been some things here and there that you learned that
Ryan,
PDM would be
yeah.
helpful.
So I've designed over, I think it was around 300 custom motorcycles at my time there, and other various projects, design projects as well. And I think the biggest hurdle to get over is understanding what your role on the team is and understanding what the objective is. And that's where, it's okay to have an honest conversation with your coworkers and your peers to really get to that level of what is needed from you. What's the benchmark that you need to do to have this project be successful? And then you personally can exceed that expectation each time. So it's it's understanding right from the actual get what is asked of you.
Yeah. Also, I just want to add, because been in many design teams. If you make a mistake, you got to let people know.